afternoon and good morning to everyone joining us from the West Coast. I'm delighted to welcome all of you to our spring webinar today. I am Elizabeth Hillis. I'm a UVA alumna and the Senior Philanthropic Advisor for UVA's Office of Gift Planning. Today's discussion will be on Financial Planning 101, planning for life's biggest adventures and surprises. And I suspect this is a topic to which all of us can relate in one way or another. First, I want to cover a few housekeeping items. First of all, this session will be recorded. We will send a link to the recording to all of you in a follow-up email. Closed captioning is also available for this session. And finally, to submit questions during the session, please use the Q&A feature. We will be happy to address as many of those questions as we can at the conclusion of the session. Please keep in mind that we will not be able to answer any questions that are specific to individual situations. And just to note that this will include the questions that many of you submitted during the registration process. So without further ado, I am so excited and it is my great pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Lazetta Rainey Braxton, a 1995 graduate of McIntire's School of Commerce here at the University of Virginia. Lazetta is a nationally recognized and sought after financial expert. She is a writer, a commentator, an influencer, and a prolific speaker and coach on financial matters. She has an active national media presence. If you had a chance to review her bio, you know that she contributes to multiple news outlets and financial publications. Her mission and her goal in life and passion is to provide access to common sense, practical, holistic financial planning for everybody, not just the ultra wealthy, so that all individuals and families can reach their goals and their dreams. Lazetta is the co-founder and CEO of 2050 Wealth Partners, where she provides financial planning services to her clients. In addition, she has a consulting practice through which she amplifies inclusion, equality, and belonging in the financial planning profession by helping financial service firms nurture a culturally aware, inclusive, and equitable workplace environment, which allows those firms to better serve all of us as clients. Lazetta has received multiple national awards and recognitions for her expertise, her leadership, her entrepreneurial spirit, her dedication, and her drive to making financial planning available for everyone and accessible to all. We are delighted that Lazetta has agreed to share her expertise and her considerable enthusiasm about financial planning with us today. And with this, I'm happy to turn it over to Lazetta. Lazetta, if you could turn on your camera and your microphone, we'll get started.
Elizabeth, thank you so very much for this warm introduction. It is always wonderful when I am in the company of fellow Wahoos, go Wahoo. And I also appreciate the hospitality of the team that is assisting me today with this presentation. You are so correct, Elizabeth. I have a big heart for financial planning, so I am very fortunate that I am doing what I love, and I hope that it is contagious for everyone who is joining this webinar today. I do want to say that it says Financial Planning 101. There's so many angles that I can take on this topic, and I am delighted that we are honing in on saving and planning for life's biggest adventures and surprises. So I hope that in our time together that you will be able to have some special moments. What do I mean by that is, as we think about today's presentation, knowing it's Financial Planning 101, some of us have had the opportunity to have personal finance. Some of us may not. Some of us may have learned from our family members or our coworkers or have studied this area on our own, or we've just stumbled across life along the way, hoping that we've made the best decisions that we could with the resources that have been entrusted to us. So my ask of you today as attendees is to think about and capture some special moments. I've defined one moment to be the aha moment, something that you didn't know or even confirmation of your current approach to your finances. Another moment that is extremely important to me, and I said this as a staunch advocate of financial planning and personal finance, is the will share moment. We do not talk enough about finances. It's too much of a taboo topic. And actually, because it's so much a part of our lives, that we should want to share best practices and just questions to ask so people can ponder to see if they're right on track. So the will share moment is maybe a topic that is better suited for your parent, your child, another family member, or even a friend. It's so wonderful when there is intergenerational conversation about wealth and finances, and also within your community as well too. And then the last the last moment, not the aha moment or the will share moment, is the gratitude moment. When you realize how well you are positioned to navigate life's adventures and surprises. I have found in my years as a financial planner that there is often a lot of shame, sometimes money fog, fear, obligation, guilt that surrounds money and the decisions that you make. We know, and I've mentioned this before, that financial education has not been a formal part of our journey. And I want you to be able to pat yourself on the back for the successes that you have had and will have, and to keep in mind that there's lots to be grateful for on the journey with financial planning, even with life surprises and adventures. So with this being said, let's continue on with the first adventure, graduation. So we are embarking upon graduation season in this month of May. Now, you may think that I'm only thinking about those who are graduating from high school or college, and I do put high school in there too because adulting can start at any time. Here I have the rotunda. Of course, I had to do that as Wahoo. And what I'd like to focus on is launching that financial future. And sometimes we also launch our future when we're changing jobs as well. So as I'm saying this adventure being for graduation, I also want what I'm about to share with you to be on your mind too, as you are negotiating new job opportunities and maybe launching a new career as well. So with the first idea, and a very important one, is to remember that you are your biggest asset. One of the greatest assets is human capital, your ability to put your talents, your strengths and skills to work so that you can earn an income that is commensurate with your human capital. We shouldn't take that for granted. Very important to nurture. It's the income that helps us turn our money into assets. So very important that we hone in on, are we being compensated well for what we bring to the table? Not many of us have the opportunity to have capital ready for us as soon as we graduate. What do I mean by that? Having the resources, to make the transition of your new apartment, your new home, and getting started in life. So many of us are dependent on that income, and we want to make sure that we leverage it. A tactic that's very important is researching the salary and bonus for the position and negotiate your worth. Even as a financial planner, we're still finding from our clients who are afraid to ask what they're worth. You may say, wow, you're spending a lot of time here. And yes, human capital is our biggest asset. So for those of you who are about to launch your career, have children that are about to launch your career, even for you, I am encouraging you to use some of these tools like salary.com to make sure that you are being compensated what you should be based on your human capital. Also, when it comes to your employer benefits are the anchor for your financial planning. So let's talk about some of those benefits. Medical insurance, disability insurance. A lot of people overlook disability insurance. If you are your biggest asset, then you need to insure you and your ability to make income. And that's where disability insurance comes into play. Typically, when it's offered, it's about 60% coverage of your income. So that means 40% is not being covered by insurance, something that you need to think about. Life insurance is often also a benefit. It doesn't mean that you need to only have life insurance through your employer. Oftentimes, there are people who get independent policies. So the independent policies are portable, meaning you can take it with you wherever you go. And then retirement contributions. With retirement contributions, start early, start young. I know you've heard that before, and I'm going to reinforce it as well. It's never too late. I'm going to say that as well. And if you're able to take advantage as soon as you can. When it comes to retirement contributions, at minimum, you should be contributing up to what your employer will match. An average is 6% of your income. And go ahead and try it. If you feel like when you're graduating, like, I don't have money to do this because I got rent, I have, student loans and the like, challenge yourself and live off the rest to make sure that you don't give away that free money, and that free money being your employer's contribution. The next level for retirement contribution is knowing what the annual limits are. This year, that limit is $20,500. That's the max that anyone can contribute to their retirement plan, whether it's a 401k or 403b and the like. So keep those strategies in mind. And as you set up your lifestyle plan, you're going to hear me say lifestyle plan a lot. A lot of people say budget, the B word. I like lifestyle plan. Lifestyle is deciding how you want to live and making sure that you can afford it. It's your lifestyle now, your lifestyle throughout your life, and your lifestyle during retirement as well too. So there are some rule of thumbs. You see here 80-20, and then you see 50-30-20. Let me share what this means. 80-20 is 20% that you should be setting aside in savings. So that savings can be retirement account, emergency account as well. And then you're living off the 80%. So if you see my next 50-30-20, kind of the same concept where you're breaking out the 80%. 20% still goes as the savings. The 50-30 is really looking at it from a standpoint of 50% anchored in kind of what your core expenses are, non-negotiable, and 30% being discretionary. Do you have some room, some wiggle room? I am not the type of person that says you shouldn't have Starbucks or deny yourself the things that you enjoy. I'm of the mindset to say, what are your trade-offs? So if you choose Starbucks, is there something else that you are giving up instead? Which are ways to look about your infinite number of dollars that you have to work during a month. You get to decide what your lifestyle will be based on your goals and values. And then reinforcing, managing your compensation as you manage your career. I'm going to keep reinforcing, you are your biggest asset. I hope you stay motivated to make sure that you are aware of what you should be compensated and that you negotiate what you are worth, such that you can turn that income into assets to support you during your life and certainly be prepared for a comfortable retirement. So some tools as it comes to the lifestyle plan, YNAB, it stands for you need a budget. Very good for itemizing how you're spending and knowing how you spend. Mint.com is a free version, YNAB is not. Two options when it comes to your lifestyle plan. Paycheck City, perfect for when you are trying to determine how much you will bring net home to live off on. So these are some tools that are available for you. Going from adventure to surprise, owning a home. So this slide here, you may think is just for first-time home buyers. The answer is no. These are rule of thumbs that apply for anyone who is currently owning a home and rechecking their lifestyle plan. So let's look at some of these percentages as guide rails that are used when lenders are looking at how much home a person can afford. So let's say my gross monthly income is $7,000. If I'm looking at what my max total mortgage payment should be, and that's principal and interest based on 28% guideline, then my mortgage payment should not exceed $1,960. If I add on Other associated housing expenses, such as real estate taxes, we know kind of to be escrow, and utilities, then 32% is the guardrail. And based on my $7,000 gross income, then my housing payment shouldn't exceed $2,240. And if we're looking at total debt, then that guardrail is 40%, which gives me a budget of 2,800. Now, remember, I use the 50-30-20 rule. If your max monthly debt payment is 40%, that means you got 10% wiggle room in terms of necessities and the like. So I know some of you are saying, wow, whew, this is kind of tight, particularly with that student loan payment. And the answer is yes, it is. So I'm back to trade-offs. Keeping in mind what these guardrails are, having a point of reference saying, yes, we want to hold on to that 20% savings if we can. And some people ask, well, should I just focus on debt before I focus on savings and set it aside? And my question is both and. Choose both. Choose both retirement, choose both your emergency fund, choose both your debt as well too. And then you can just decide about how much you can contribute to each of those goals as well, and what feels most comfortable to you at the time you're making this decision and as you're reevaluating your decision along the way. When it comes to your home, make sure you have a reserve for the down payment and repairs. That's what the surprise in owning a home comes into play when the HVAC system blows or the pipes have frozen because of the temperatures and the like. So as you think about how much you should set aside in the emergency cushion account, if you own a home, make sure there's some money set aside as well too for the surprises that will happen. Each year, you should also have goals because homes require maintenance. Decide how much you want to invest in renovations and additions. Pay attention to mortgage interest rates. And I know a lot of people are doing that now because they have increased very rapidly in the last few months. So if you have ARM, which means an adjustable rate mortgage, you may be wanting to think about locking in a good rate because they are climbing very quickly. And then as we're talking about real estate and assets as well too, is that I'm seeing a lot of clients who also have rentals as a way to expand their investment portfolio and Airbnbs and the like. And remember, if you decide to own real estate beyond your own home, know that you're going to need a reserve as well for all of the other real estate in your portfolio as well. And these are some great rule of thumbs. So as we continue on to an adventure, marriage, for those who decide marriage or even partnerships as well too. So you see, first bullet point, going back to that lifestyle plan. So you had created a lifestyle plan that felt good to you when you were single. And so when you decide to join with another partner or a spouse, it is important to revisit that lifestyle plan. Decide together how you will merge your finances. Will you keep your own separate accounts and have a joint household account, or will you have a joint household account and then your fund money accounts, individually? That is a decision that should be taken seriously because it sets the stage for your marriage. Also, make any adjustment to taxes when it comes to filing jointly as well. The other aspect of marriage is a prenup. Do you want to earmark, your finances legally in a prenup? And is there other considerations that you want to codify legally? Something to think about. Also, drafting estate planning documents. Many people, it's a percentage that I'm seeing consistently, 42% of people have wills or trusts and other estate planning documents. Such a low figure. When you're independent individual, you can customarily kind of look at beneficiary designations. Maybe you don't have a lot of property. You still run the risk, even as an individual, of having assets for which The state will decide who gets them instead of you if you don't have estate planning documents. As you're joining forces, this is a great time to be serious about getting those estate planning documents done and updating your beneficiaries. So maybe you had your mom or dad as a beneficiary when you were single, and now that you're married, you may want to visit some of those beneficiaries and title of the assets. Also revisit your insurance coverages, medical, life, property, casual, and so important, have those money dates regularly. The pillow talk, because we know a lot of marriages fold because of financial decisions. And so I know that you may be listening to me saying that this is so practical that you thought that you were going to get fireworks in terms of advice. Well, this is fireworks. Years as a financial planner, it's when people don't take the time to do what they know they need to do. And I'm here to be that reminder for you, that catalyst for you to take seriously you as an asset, human capital, your marriage as a joint union of a financial decision and merger as well, and to integrate these aspects of financial planning that includes employee benefits, that includes looking at your insurances, that includes your legal documents, as well as continuing conversation. I like to say, treat your wealth and your business, your wealth as a family business, meaning take the time with business meetings and talk about your strategy, your goals, and how you will meet your goals. Surprise! Children. If you decide to go in that direction, I'm back to your employee benefits, because there are many people who would desire to have children and may have some challenges with conception. That's why it's very important to know your employer benefits, to map that out, because it can be a very expensive journey on the front end trying to conceive. And certainly as you expand your family, once again, you're going to have to revisit that lifestyle plan to factor in the cost of saving for retirement, as well as the 529 plans, the cost of just having more to feed in the household and more activities and more things that make the household sing. Understand your tax opportunities. That includes if you decide to adopt, thinking about dependents and child tax credits, as we see a lot of conversations about the advance credit, understanding what that meant for your 2021 tax return, revisiting insurances again. So you may not have decided when you got married to have an independent insurance policy. This is a time to definitely think about that as you're preparing to have children and even thereafter. Update or draft that estate planning documents to include guardianship. Guardianship is so important, to think about who will care for your children if you are not able to. And the not able to could mean because you're incapacitated. Maybe you had an accident and unable to make decisions on your own, and that would include raising your children, or a financial decision that you need to make on their behalf. So if you are dragging your feet on the estate planning documents, please don't. And certainly if your family has expanded, start that as soon as this webinar ends as well. Consider strategies for education planning. I mentioned 529. That is one way, a well-known way of saving for education. And it's a wild card in terms of if your children will decide to go to college. That's a vehicle you can use. Coverdell accounts based on your adjusted gross income. You can contribute that are earmarked for education as well. Some parents are paying out of cash flow, meaning their human capital, putting to work, getting income, using that money to pay off college bills as well too. So those are some of the options. Of course, children can have their own accounts as well. And then having savings for the unknown. So I'm planting seeds. There is a slide that I will share with you about some rule of thumbs that will help you say, how much should I have in emergency cushion accounts and other ways to redeploy your income based on that human capital. Some tools to help you with your children, raising financially responsible children: Goal Setter, Green Light, Stockpile, Acorns. These apps allow you to share funds, transfer funds to your children. You may want to set it up in terms of doing chores or however you decide as a family to reward or share income with your children. These apps are great. These apps also, a couple of them will also allow you to allow your children to invest in the market. That exposure is extremely important. As an example, we have a daughter. We opened her stockpile account some years ago, and we encouraged her to invest the money that we shared with her and what she got from her birthday, as well to invest in stocks or companies that were important to her. And so this gave her an understanding of investing in the market, understanding watching companies to see how well they're doing, and really encourage you to consider, whether it's a niece or nephew, if you don't have any children, to expose them early about money management, how to know what's available to them, and the consequences of spending on lots of toys with having no money left or other things that they may want to enjoy. It really starts early. Now, the PNC virtual wallet, I also added this because PNC virtual wallet has 3 accounts for anyone who's interested. It has a spend, a reserve, and a grow account. Those are great for buckets as well too, to help children understand which buckets and when to use them. So here's a slide that I mentioned that I will come back to in terms of how to turn this income into wealth, into assets. So your first go-to is going to be your checking account, which I call your lifestyle account. Typically recommend no more than about $2,000 as a cushion in your account. So the goal is obviously that what you bring in, you know what your lifestyle, meaning what's going to go out in terms of expenses and savings and the like, and that at any time you have at least $2,000, some people have more, in that account, such that if your tires blow out and you need new tires and you decided to charge it on your credit card, you'll pay off those tires with that cushion account as a first line of defense against surprises, having that buffer. And then your cushion no-touch account. That account, you used to hear 3 to 6 months worth of lifestyle expenses. I like more of a 6-month minimum, just because some people like to pivot, particularly in this great resignation. There's some people that say it's not an emergency necessarily that I need to pull from this funds. It's just I've decided to make a life change and I want some breathing room. I want to be able to take some time off and not feel pressured to go back to work right away. This is what this no-touch cushion account would be for. So 6 months of lifestyle expenses at minimum, 12 really at the most, because that's a lot of cash to be sitting. And thinking about a money market account that's yielding you a little bit more interest than a savings account for this type of account. Your annual goals account. So remember, out to those who own a home, you need to have that cushion to be thinking about what needs to happen that year, whether you want to replace the HVAC or replace the carpet or make some other changes, new windows, setting that money aside throughout the year because you know that you're going to spend it. This account is also for travel. Now that the world is open back up, I know many of us like to take those expensive trips. I'm one of them. I love experiences. That's the trade-off. Relaxation makes me very productive when I'm going back to work and putting my human capital to work. So the goal is to have that money available for when you are ready to spend it. So it is available when you're ready to spend it. Now moving to a personal taxable account, that's investing in the market. Those funds are available to you, no penalty, that you will be subject to capital gains rate, which are typically lower than other tax rates as well. So as you're expanding your investment portfolio, make sure that you have a brokerage account that is open and invested in the market as another way to diversify your assets that you're building now to support you in retirement. Your brokerage company stock, that's for those who work for a company that issues stock, so known as RSUs, or their other versions of stock options and the like. And then UPMA for your child account. So if you have a stockpile account as an example, or Acorns for them, or even a bank account with a PNC, that be owned by your child, and it is subject to state laws based on them being minors for these banking accounts. Your 401k, 403 account, or your retirement account, I mentioned the max is $20,500. If you're age 50 or older, then you can contribute an additional amount that will bring you up to $27,000 total. It's called the catch-up provision. Traditional IRAs or Roth IRAs, subject to your adjusted gross income. So also is your Coverdell account that is also subject to your AGI. Coverdell is for education. Your 529 plan is also for education. So as you're looking at thinking about where to put your money in what buckets, and are you filling these buckets, this is a great map for you to keep in mind, because these are the assets that are going to also support you during retirement as well. Now, as we are at pre-retirement planning, the adventures of thinking about, wow, getting close to not having to work to make a living. Ideal. Now, there's some of you who are already in motion with that early in life. Maybe you're the FIRE people, financially independent, retire early. Either way you look at this, at whatever age you're at, these are some important considerations when you are transitioning to no longer having to work to make a living. Assess your net worth. So what is your net worth? That is your total assets, everything that you own, subtracting your liabilities, everything that you owe, and what's left over. Now, really, in terms of practicality, would you, pay up all your liabilities and see what you'd have left? Probably not, not during your lifetime. Thereafter, yes. Upon death, that is an exercise that has to be done to pay off your liabilities and see what's left over to transfer for your estate. What that figure does while you're still working and even after you retire is to let you know how deep your safety net is. Your safety net, thinking about if you did have to pay off your liabilities, would you be in a positive position, and to what degree? Also, as you're planning for retirement, think about maxing out, if you haven't along the way, your retirement accounts, and also HSA contributions. I like HSAs. Those are accounts that you set aside for medical expenses that carry forward with you in terms of that account in retirement if you are enrolled in a high deductible plan. Also, for pre-retirees, there used to be a time where we say, look at long-term care insurance when you're in your 50s, late 50s. That guidance is now changing. So if you're in your 40s, while you're still earning good income, you may want to explore long-term care insurance. Long-term care insurance is when that you are not able to do 2 ADLs, daily living activities, which would include bathing yourself or being able to dress yourself. So if you have family members that have experienced this, where they have not in their aging years been able to take care of themselves, that's when long-term care comes into play. So this is a good time to explore, if you're in your 40s, long-term care insurance, such that you can afford those premiums now and bake it into your lifestyle plan that will continue with you in retirement as well. Also, reflecting on housing. I'm coming back to housing and that rule of thumb. A lot of people may have paid off their mortgage before retirement. A lot of people carry their mortgage into retirement. So as we were talking about those percentages, 28%, 32%, 40%, if you still have a mortgage, you got to think about what income is coming in as well to make sure you're still in those thresholds. And I can tell you, having a mortgage in retirement, if it's not matched up with some of your assets, can feel like a strain to you. So think about how you're living. If you're going to downsize your home, or even downsize when it comes to where you're living, cost of living, when you're 50, great time to consider that, because 15 years will fly by, and 15 to 20 years is pretty much as long as you want to have a mortgage as well during your earning years. Those who carry mortgages, may want the benefit of the tax write-off, and they're just using their income that they're receiving from maybe their nest egg. That's a strategy as well too, but I have to bring this to your attention. And then here we go, revisiting estate planning. Again, look at those beneficiaries. Maybe you design your estate planning when your children were minors and haven't updated that information. This is a good time to revisit. And then the surprise of retirement planning. You have arrived to that magical moment when you no longer have to work to make a living. some steps to take. Create your Social Security online account. Now, really, I recommend that as early as possible. Now, it would be ideal because you want to, one, secure your profile so nobody else does. And then two, to track to make sure what's being reported on your behalf is accurate. That's not a project that you want to wait until you're right at retirement to do. But if you have waited, go ahead, sign up for Social Security online. Know when to sign up for Part A at age 65. There are penalties if you don't sign up for Part A of Medicare. Now, Medicare is associated with age 65. If you're still working, then you can defer the Part B, but you have to sign up for Part A. Envision your life without full-time work and explore hobbies and new adventures. Some of the biggest challenges for retirees is what to do with their time. And some people are more busier during retirement than before they retired as well too. So that is a mental shift as well. And be sure to be thinking about how you envision those wonderful years to do whatever you want to do. Look at your long-term care plan and then reflect on your legacy and philanthropic wishes. So as you are going through with estate planning and thinking about how you want to transfer your wealth and thinking about people and institutions as well, maybe it is, you want to give back and wasn't able to during your career to UVA or other charities that are important to you and institutions. And also thinking about, your legacy with your family as well. This is another time to revisit those wishes. So here are some of your tools: SSA.gov, Medicare.org, AARP. We also know, well known for working with retirees and pre-retirees, and nextavenue.org is another great website for all things related to retirees and getting ready for retirement. In fact, I write an Gen X and money article column for Next Avenue because I'm one of those ones that I'm practicing what I'm preaching as a Gen Xer, getting ready. Pre-retirement planning is already here for me. So as we think about those buckets, I showed a slide to you about when you're working, setting aside for your brokerage accounts, your retirement accounts, your cushion account. Now let's think about those income sources when you are retired. Social Security, we talked about. Please look at that online profile. The average benefit was $16.58. If you earned more throughout your years, you can see a higher number than that. Be sure to check it out. Pension, only 26% of non-retirees have a defined benefit pension. Defined benefit is the technical term for a pension. Defined contribution is what we're mostly familiar with, and that is our 401ks and our 403bs. So that number has dwindled and will continue to dwindle. And what a pension does is give you money for your lifetime. So we know that that's not an option for most of us. And so that is going to make us more dependent on those 401ks. So Fidelity did a survey on the retirement accounts as an example that it holds, and only 412,000 people. And I say only because we got millions of people in this country that are retirees. Only 412,000 had $1 million or more in their account. And so as we think about how much is enough, I'm back to your lifestyle plan. Some people can live off Social Security and a little bit from their 401k and be just fine because their house is paid off. They're in, an area that's low cost of living and they live very simply and they don't travel that much. If you know that you still have a mortgage and you like to travel and there's some other things you like to do, then your lifestyle plan is going to determine how much you need in these accounts. Now, another rule of thumb is, thinking about how many times your earnings. There are different levels. I will say that there is a rule of thumb that says you should have 10 times your income, by the time you reach 65. So whatever that income was at age 60, it should be 10 times that amount. I don't like rule of thumbs in that aspect because it really depends on your lifestyle plan. It really does. There is another rule of thumb that says you need 80% of your pre-retirement income to live comfortably. Another rule of thumb that allows you to kind of play around with some figures as you look at your lifestyle plan. And then with the IRAs, another figure from the Fidelity report is 341,000. So, we hear the $1 million mark. It's nice, to have a great nest egg to support how you want to live. And the key is back to your lifestyle plan. And then your taxable account, that's your brokerage account. That maximum capital gains rate that's currently 20%, so much lower than the tax bracket you're probably in now, which could be in the high 20s or high 30s as well too. And anything that comes out, you withdraw from your tax deferred buckets is going to be taxed at the higher rate. So taxable accounts are extremely important as a part of your overall portfolio. So we covered a lot of territory today. I hope there were some aha moments, some will share moments and some gratitude moments as well too. I hope that you will reach out to me with any questions, stay in touch, or even, social share some of the information that you found today. And so now this makes for a great opportunity to answer some questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Lazetta. That was a wonderful and full of information presentation. We are very grateful to you for all of that. We've received some amazing questions. As you know, I previewed some of the questions for you earlier when we received them through the registration process, and we've also received some questions today. So I'm just going to go through as many as we can get through today, and I'm going to start with this. So how should someone calculate the minimum savings required to safely retire? How does somebody create an anticipated retirement budget?
Okay, so I mentioned the lifestyle plan, and I know that we are aware of money that comes in and goes out, but we may not have quantified it. So I am not the type of person that says track it every month. I'm the type of person to say, okay, have a money date with yourself, look at your bank statement, choose 1 month, write down the income that net from your paycheck that's coming in, and then list out your mortgage, list out your utilities, just list them out old-fashioned style. You don't even have to use the tools that I've shared. The point is capture it for a month and see really how you're spending. No judgment, but just be conscious and aware, and not say, oh, it's there, or I'll just charge it, I'll figure it out later. So that's a starting point, figuring out what your lifestyle is now. And then think about where you are in your journey. So if you are in your 30s, it's going to change. If you're in your 40s, that might change, kids and the like. When you're in your 50s, this is the time to hone in to say, okay, what will be carried out into retirement? Thinking about the mortgage and utilities, those big expenses, right? And so when you have a clear idea of what direction you're heading in, right? So are you really, as you're earning more income, paying down more debt? Is your lifestyle reflective of things that are sustainable that you're doing? So if you're traveling and paying $20,000 every year, is that sustainable? Is something that you want to keep in retirement? So you're really looking at your habits, your desires, your wishes. And then from that point, you're saying, okay, I know it's clear that I need $10,000 a month in retirement to be comfortable. So your first point of reference is go to Social Security and say, okay, what is that going to give me? And then the next point of reference is that, because you know what you need, 10,000 is that number, then you can go to an AARP to say, get a calculator that says how long would my retirement last? You can Google that. How long will my nest egg last? You'll get tons of calculators. And what you're going to plug in is what you currently have and your nest egg, your 401k account, your brokerage account. I would say use an interest rate, a rate of return of about 4 or 5% to be extremely modest, very conservative. And then it'll tell you how much you want to take out and see if it will last. Those are easy steps. So lifestyle plan, know what it is. Have maybe a ballpark or what feels comfortable. You guess in retirement that could change. Use a calculator to take all that you currently have in those two accounts. Use an interest rate of 4 or 5%. Very conservative. Say you want, say $8,000 a month, and see if that's going to last. If not, you got to make some adjustments.
Great, thank you. Okay, the next question involves self-employment. So we've talked a lot about employer plans, that sort of thing. And somebody asked, with gig work and entrepreneurship comprising a larger and larger percentage of the working population, how does being self-employed affect the financial planning decisions of younger workers?
Great question. And as an entrepreneur myself with 2 businesses, I totally understand what it means to take that leap. I, in one of my slides, had referred to your employee benefits. So we have to be very clear that you are the employer and the employee when you become an entrepreneur. So that means that you have to create your income, meaning have the revenue to pay yourself. And you need to have the revenue to be able to cover your benefits as well too. So as you think about your transition to going on your own as an entrepreneur, how many months reserved do you have to give you breathing room to cover the lifestyle, your lifestyle plan? So if your contribution to your household is $5,000 a month, and you think it's going to take you about 3 months to really get going, and usually it takes a little bit longer, then you need $15,000 to give you some cushion to be able to sleep at night while you're building your business. And hopefully your business plan is in motion and you already have some clients that you're thinking about. And then obviously too, you might have to do some loans, right? To leverage to be able to have the operational money that you need. Now let's talk about benefits. Medical. A lot of people are using the exchange to get medical coverage. Life insurance, that's going to be portable anyway. Very easy, to work with an insurance agent to get life insurance. Disability coverage is going to be a little bit more expensive and absolutely necessary, right? Because you are your biggest asset. You are protecting your income for what you need. So disability insurance is going to be important, and it's going to be adjusted based on how your business grows as well too. And then as we're thinking about estate planning documents, if you are an entrepreneur, the equivalent is having your operating agreement, which says if something were to happen to me, how you want your business to be divested, transferred, and the like. So there's an estate planning that needs to be done with your business as well too, and ensure that you are set up appropriately for your entity as well, which ties into taxes as well. So it's so interesting that financial planning, the concepts apply for you as an individual and for you as a business entrepreneur as well too.
Great, thank you. So here's an interesting question, and I think we all can benefit from the answer to this one. What is the most common mistake intelligent, high-income people continue to make about their finances?
And Wahoos, we all, that would be all of us. Our mistake is not taking time to take a step back and really reflect on the things that I've shared today. They seem so practical. It's like, duh. And that's what I remind a lot of our clients as well too. It's the intentionality about taking care of yourself, and that includes your finances, not to be afraid of your numbers, recognize areas where you're not strong at, and invite others to be experts, because we can't be experts in everything, no matter how much we think that we are. That's just not possible, and not desirable as well either. And so for those who are intelligent, we affirm that. And with intelligence comes wisdom. And wisdom is saying that you are paying attention to the cues, your gut that says, I'm on track, I'm not on track, and be willing to ask for assistance or take a deeper dive if necessary. And if you need to ask for assistance, it doesn't mean that you're intelligent. In fact, it does mean that you're surrounding yourself with people who can help you be your best self and live, your full life to its fullness.
Thank you. So here's another question that's maybe along those same lines, but what is the most common sort of missed opportunity that people make when planning for retirement? Many people have employer-sponsored 401k or 403b plans. What else should we be doing to plan for retirement?
I see a lot, and I emphasize a lot in my presentation about having a taxable brokerage account. A lot of people, when they think taxable brokerage account, they're thinking, oh, I don't pick individual stocks. No, the concept is that you have an account that may even have some of the same holdings that you may have in your retirement account. For instance, a lot of retirement accounts may have an index fund, S&P 500 as an example. That is a investment that you could also have in your brokerage account. The key is that with brokerage accounts, it doesn't have the retirement early withdrawal penalty, because we know with retirement accounts, you have to wait to age 59 and a half to withdraw, so you don't have an early withdrawal penalty. with brokerage accounts, if you want to access those funds that you set aside for long-term planning, you can with no penalty. And the taxes, when you make withdrawals, if there's gains, it's not as high as a retirement account distribution would be for tax deferred. So I encourage people, as they're, setting aside money in their retirement account, trying to reach those maximums, to also be contributing, even if it's $100 or $150, $200 a month, to a brokerage account as well too. And it doesn't have to be fancy in your investment strategy. It can mirror your investment strategy for retirement. It just gives you another option. And brokerage accounts are great for transferring wealth as well too.
Great. Okay, if someone is just starting out, or if somebody gets like a big bonus that's sort of unexpected, which account should they fund first? Savings, fill up your 401k first, HSA. What should they be doing if they get sort of an unexpected big bunch of money, or they're just starting out?
Okay, so let's talk about this lump sum. And for some people, it may feel like sudden money because it's like, woo, look at those zeros in my account. If the lump sum has come to you by way of a bonus, then for retirement, it's likely, if you have a certain percentage that you're contributing, it's going to max out your retirement account for that year, because you can only get to 20,500 or 27,000. So keep that in mind, to know that you may have already maxed out because of this bonus, which means you got extra cash flow available for the rest of the year that you should be putting to work. If this windfall comes in another way, whether it's an inheritance or even a settlement and the like, I am really of the mindset to pay consumer debt. There is something freeing if you do have consumer debt to knock that out, and even student loan debt, knock that out. Not one to say pay off a home. That takes some analysis because interest rates are so low that you may want to put that money to work. And putting that money to work may be some of your goals of saying, I do want to take a break between jobs, or it may be that you feel behind in retirement savings and you put an amount in your brokerage account, or you're funding a little more, the 529 account. The key is being mindful about where you are on your journey, what your numbers are, your net worth statement, and then moving forward with that strategy, whether your strategy is just based on what you're making each month or the windfall, is that you'll know where to park it because you'll know what buckets haven't been filled. You'll also know what keeps you up at night that you can address, and you can keep your plan in motion. And I also say to treat yourself. Don't go overboard, but set aside, maybe 10% to give to yourself to do whatever you want to do with it because you worked hard for it. Or it's a gift that you should treat yourself as well too. So I want to celebrate life reasonably.
Excellent advice. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room at this point because we're all dealing with it. In fact, during the course of the presentation, I just got a little ping that said the Fed has just raised interest rates by 0.5 percentage point. So how do we protect ourselves in periods of inflation and market volatility generally? And that may depend on whether you're starting out, whether you're in retirement, approaching retirement, but we'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yes, inflation. Sometimes inflation seems quiet. What I mean by that, you go to the grocery store and like, wow, milk has gone up. You go back, it's like, wow, it went up again, right? And it's just like, oh, my grocery bill, which as you look at your overall lifestyle plan is significant, but it kind of creeps up on you. And I say creep up on you like weight gain, right? Every turn you make, it's a pinch. Then there is the inflation that shows up in interest rates, particularly when you're trying to buy a home, sell a home, because you're like, who's going to buy this home now? Because it's cooling off the market. So I would say for those who are in a situation where I'm back to where you are in terms of your lifestyle plan and those trade-offs. So if it's groceries, that you really feel the hit, then you can make some adjustments kind of easily. You could say, okay, instead of cable, now's the time I'm going to go for Hulu alone, and I'll give up ESPN or whatever the cable. That's an easy make. But if you have some bigger decisions about my car is about to, I've had it for 10 years, it's at 200,000 miles. I'm saying any of those big purchases that you know that you need to make, go ahead and lock in. Because when you lock in, that means that you are hedging against inflation, right? Because you've got the car, you've got the home that you can ride out because you don't have to go back to the market when the market is going to be higher in these interest rates. What I'm also seeing is that interest rates for purchases are increasing, i.e. homes and cars, but not necessarily increasing on the money market side, the investments side. So be mindful of that as well too, in terms of how you put your money to work. Is that you may be in a season where some of the big goals that you wanted to do, like travel and the like, you may have to wait to see how things settle out. When you are not certain how all of it's going to unfold with the vendors that you're working with who may be raising fees, we talked about other items that you just have to see how it's going to play itself out. So I would say, to bring this back in, if you got a big purchase for which you want to make a car or a home, this may be the time, because interest rates, as they go up, that means you're going to be able to afford less of a home, less of a car, less of certain things. And if the timing is right, and be prepared for that. And then keep watching the interest rates of some of the secure investments to see how they're inching up and redeploying your money accordingly. Because if you're in a CD that you're locked in for 5 years, as an example, interest rates are going up, you're going to lose money trying to get out of that CD. Or for longer term investments, make sure that you're in it, because the stock market is definitely a hedge against inflation, even if it's a little rocky for a while. We've just seen upward trends that you need exposure to the equity market for your long-term investments. And even after retirement, because we're living 30 years in retirement. So definitely have a percentage of your portfolio exposed to equities for long-term investments.
Thank you.
Don't panic.
Yeah. No, I think don't panic is great. It's great advice.
Don't panic and sell. Don't panic and sell.
Great. Thank you so much, Lazetta. So we're just about out of time, and I want to thank Lazetta for this incredibly helpful, informative presentation. It's actually pretty calming for me as I look at the slides. There's some good steps to be taking and concrete steps to be taking, and I'm doing some of them and maybe not some others, and I hope others are finding some value that they can take with them, some of those takeaways. So thank you, Lazetta. We really appreciate your time, your expertise today. I also want to thank everybody for joining us today. This is what makes these webinars wonderful, and this questions that were submitted prior to and during the session were absolutely incredible and thoughtful and dead on targeted to exactly what we all need to know. So thank you for sharing those as well. And finally, I just want to offer thanks to UVA's Office of Engagement for supporting this webinar. This webinar would not have happened without that crackerjack team, and we're so grateful to them for making this possible. This concludes our webinar today. Everybody have a wonderful day. Thank you for attending.